Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's video. Hope you're well and enjoying your newfound freedom. You can go out and exercise now as long as you want. We ended last week's video talking about what we're doing here at 10 Forward to prepare for when it is possible to come back to work. So I thought we'd start on that this week because obviously there's been a lot of changes and there's been a lot of information released. So the government has released a couple of documents particularly targeted at businesses or office environments. But the principles remain the same, whether you're operating a business on your own or whether you've got people working with you remotely or even in one office location, such as we will have. And it's important to have a look at that information. So what we've been doing here at 10 Forward is reviewing the information that the government have put in that document. The recommendation is that every business needs to own that process. And by that we mean reviewing what's required, the minimum standards, and then preparing the documentation that shows what your standard is for your business, consulting with your staff and ensuring that everyone's aware of that. The important factor as well is to remain flexible with that, and as things might change in the weeks and months ahead, being able to adapt to that as well. So we're happy to provide you any information if you do need assistance on that. We've obviously spent a lot of time already just starting to work on that documentation, and thank you to all of those that have provided us with some assistance as well and shared their documentation with us. That's really handy. One thing I would just point out is the area of GDPR. It's a bit of a minefield, but obviously it's this whole area of who to share information with. So if someone has had a test or is thinking of testing for the virus, or if someone has had the virus, who do you share that information with, who's entitled to it? You need to be aware of all of the requirements in that area. So yeah, keep an eye on that. As one client said to us, it is a tremendous headache just trying to wade through all of that information. One thing I thought I'd share with you this week is a nice success story around R&D tax credits. So as you're probably aware, that the government have had a scheme running now for almost 20 years where if you do research and development in a new area, you're able to claim the cost that you've incurred in doing that, and in some cases be able to get a tax refund or a cash credit. What has happened with the whole R&D system within HMRC is it's really been struggling, particularly over the last year. So things such as Brexit and now with the coronavirus pandemic has meant HMRC has moved resources away from processing claims. So we've seen the time to process claims expand drastically. Now it can be taken months and months until from the point you submit the claim to when you even hear from HMRC, and let alone actually getting the claim processed. But we had a business who was certainly relying on that money, put their claim in. It's a multinational business with a large six-figure claim, and it got dealt with very, very quickly, so that was really good. And we know that that particular client has been really grateful for that and been able to use those funds, especially during this challenging time. As we mentioned last week, the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme portal has opened, and that has successfully opened now this week. One thing to note with that is that taxpayers are being encouraged obviously to go on and register, but you can't all register at the same time. They've actually staggered who can register when. To find out when you can register, you need to go on and register and do an online checker using one of their websites, and we can provide you with that information, but if you just search for it, you should be able to find it. They say that they'll be paying out funds by the 25th of May, so let's watch this space and see when that happens. The bounce back loans are also going really well. We've managed to make a number of claims very, very quickly on behalf of clients, and we know that in speaking to you, you've also done those claims very quickly and receiving funds in your bank account within the 48 hours. Some of them are taking a little bit longer, but it seems by and large to be successful. Some of the questions we have been asked about particularly are around this area of what happens if a business finds or an individual finds that actually they need a bit more than what they've applied for in the bounce back loan. So the concern is obviously bounce back loans have a maximum of 50,000. What happens if you find in the coming months that you need more than that? Well, in speaking to lenders, they've said to us that you can convert that bounce back loan to a C-bills loan later on. You have up until November to do that. So if you do find in a few months' time or a few weeks' time that actually you need more than that amount, just need to speak to the lender and they can handle that process. There are a few hoops to jump through, and obviously it's a different application process, but it is possible to do so. Just so that you're aware of that. One of the things I thought we'd end on this week is just to discuss this obvious change in working practices. Clearly forced on us initially, but now a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals are saying, well, does this represent potentially a shift in our attitude towards flexibility in the workplace? So more people working from home, for example. Well, I suppose like most of you, my feeling on that is that we just need to wait and see. There are benefits to working from home, but there are also challenges, and I don't necessarily think that there's going to be a huge seismic change in the way that businesses operate, but it has been interesting to see how people have adapted to that process. One of the things it has definitely highlighted is the need to embrace the digital revolution, and by that we're talking about the moving as much data, information, processes, applications, putting them in the cloud, making it easier for businesses to run processes, to operate and to do things from different locations. It certainly will help to make businesses more robust and be able to handle the challenges such as the ones that we've had to handle over the last couple of months. Disruption to businesses and their normal way of working will obviously be minimized if we have more and more of those processes digitized. So that's something that we'll be focusing on here at 10 Forward over the coming months, using applications like Xero, like Receipt Bank and other connectivity applications to make sure that you can still run your business as successfully as possible despite disruption. So look out for updates in that area. So thank you for listening, and we hope you have a really nice weekend, and look out for our video next week.